Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Comix Rant Mini. And I'm your host, Arvin Bautista. And this channel is devoted to having fun and sharing my love of comics with everybody. For today's episode, we're going to talk about The Ambassadors, issue number 3 by Mark Millar and Travis Charest. And so, The Ambassadors is a concept that Mark Millar and various other artists have made, where it's every country has their own set of chosen superheroes. And this program, the Ambassadors program, is backed by the government, and it gives the regular people that are chosen from each country superpowers. And it's kind of cool. So it shares, all the heroes share a certain cloud of superpowers, and they download them as they need them, which is always a cool concept to me. One of the Legionnaires, I think, I forget, Ultra Boy, I believe, from DC. He had all these powers, but he could only use one at a time. And it sounds like, man, that's so lame. That's not like Superman. But it does provide some really cool, weaknesses to the power. So the character has to be pretty, creative with them. Anyway, so that's kind of the general gist of the Ambassadors. Now, this is issue 3, and every issue of this limited series features a different artist, probably some of the best artists in the industry. So it'd be like Oliver Coipel would be one of them. And when I had heard that Travis was going to draw one, and I haven't seen anything from Travis in ages, maybe a bunch of pinups and he gets commissions and that's how he makes his money. But a sequential comic from Travis Charest, I've never seen that in quite a few number of years. I think the last one I had of his was Space Girl. He may have drawn something else in between, but it's been years, and I love Travis's work. I've been a fan since Dark Stars from DC. I liked his style. It was this Jim Lee kind of clone, but he had his own faces. There were these round faces that had certain kind of features, and it set him apart from Jim Lee. And sure enough, after a few years in the industry, he just burst out and just became his own beast. And his stuff is just awesome. Anyway, let's dive into this. This is the cover. This is the Paris version, the Paris branch of the Ambassadors, where it's a mother and son team. And Travis has lived in Paris, so I guess he would be the perfect one for this. I am not sure if he's still there. He might be. But in any case, Mark Millar, there was an interview on Mark Millar's YouTube channel. You guys check it out. He talks to all these artists. I'm not sure if he keeps up with it anymore, but they have always been super informative and just very casual. It's just fun to see them talk and to see Travis talk about this. And I forget how long he took to do this book. And he is notorious for his speed, his slower speed, but the quality bar is way off the charts all the time. So I always love getting his stuff. I should have reserved it when I heard about it. I got the second printing one. I don't really care, since I found that even if I have valuable comics, I just could not be bothered to put them on eBay and sell them, or I like them so much I would never sell them in the first place. In any case, I got the second edition of this. I had my comic book store pull it for me. And you can see he does a lot of photo reference. I'm not sure if he takes photos of, or if he has photos of these places in Paris and then he just inks over them, or if he just draws them freehand. Either way, I think it just looks great. The fidelity, the detail on it is just amazing. And you can just take a look at, this set that he puts them in. It's quite specific, right? And they're just cool looking characters. They have cool Travis hair, like this kid right here. He works digitally nowadays, I believe, but it still looks really, really good, really sharp. Some of the hatching and the detail work he does is just very fun to look at. And it goes through, you know, there's like subway sequences, and there's a little bit of bullying going on, of course. How could you not in a comic book? But it all looks very stunning. And it's, the thing is about this book though is, you know, as I was reading the book, you know, I enjoy it because Travis is drawing. I mean, there's some breathtaking panels here going on, right? It's just nuts. And this is why I'm saying maybe it's photo reference stuff and then he inks over it, or if he puts it together, photo reference things that he puts together and then starts inking over that. But it's just some insane stuff. Insane looking stuff. Great hatchwork on the lighting and the folds and jackets and stuff like that. I really love it. Love it. I eat it up. Now, okay, what I was talking about earlier was, as I was reading this book, I mean, Travis's art looks great. I was a little disappointed with how the colors look. It is Travis's stuff usually works best because he details everything, puts so much texture on there. When there's just very subtle colors on it, and just maybe like very slight gradients. Mostly the color is flat. But I feel like in this book, it was just kind of dark. So this car, the sports car, is Lamborghini. You can see it from here. I feel like the details get lost. It is hard to manage, but I feel like it gets so lost because the red is so deep that, you know, a lot of this detail that's on here starts to disappear. So, you know, as I'm reading this, it becomes more and more apparent to me as I flip through the pages. So it actually bothered me so much that I had to look up who colored it. And I looked and I was like, Dave Stewart. And you know, I love Dave Stewart stuff. Anything that he does is so awesome. So spot on. He was coloring Mike Mignola and Hellboy, and I remember hearing or reading interviews where he would say they would just nitpick the crap out of those colors, and they're just flat colors gradient, which flat color gradients, which I believe is the same way this is also approached, and I think it is the right way to do it. It's just some of the values I think are just really close to each other. So stuff like this seems dark to me. This is beautiful detail work from Travis here. His tech is always something I've loved. It's like this very real way of doing it. So it was a shock to me when I flipped over and I saw, oh, Dave Stewart did the colors. I always love anything that Dave Stewart colors, to be honest with you. And I noticed that he would always, even early on in his career, he could color anything in any style of comic book. If it was whimsical, if it was realistic, if it was flat, if it was two-tone, he could hit it all. So I was very shocked to see his name because I just did not enjoy the colors too much. I do like this. He hit it really good. And I'm not sure if it's the look they were going for, but a lot of the nighttime scenes were so dark. This works for me. I like this. There's a lot of contrast in color and in the drawing, and I could still see a lot of the detail that Travis is known for. And I think that's some of the things so even stuff like this kind of blue for the sky looks great. Even this looks great. But then this is, when you hit this back part, it is the black and white pages of a black and white original inks of the pages here. And that's why I am a sucker for black and white. So maybe that's the problem. But that's why I'm like, yeah, this is the kind of clarity I want to see. And maybe, I don't know, maybe there's no way around it, but like just this, like I had shown you guys this earlier, but this boy with his jacket and the contrast in it just looks so good in black and white that when you see it in color, it's just not, I'm not quite sure what's going on with why I'm not responding to it as well. Maybe the reds and blues are too saturated, and I know they're supposed to be because it's superheroes and it's the French flag and all that. It's just, I just really like the way this looks. Here, I'll show you guys some more of these black and white pages, which is definitely worth the price of admission. Here's another one, you know, and Travis is doing the gray tones on this, but like all the contrast and all that's working. It's working so well here, and I'm not sure I like it in this one. Because I think because this all just becomes one big gray area, quote unquote, gray area where all the things kind of blend into each other because the colors are so close to each other. I'm not sure if this is a monitor thing, if this is a printing thing, but you know, there is a difference in focus. But you know, I love seeing all his stuff in black and white. Like, you know, this looks great. This is definitely done with color in mind. And let me see. I think it does play out pretty good on the color version, I think. Where is it? Yeah, it works pretty well. So even though this is all grayed out, the correct details are standing out. You know what I mean? And it's like a more subtle color palette. I get it. Okay, let's just take a look at some more of this goodness. This is so good. Just great looking stuff. Forget if this must be a $5 book. But here are some scenes from, I think this is some of the earlier pages that Millar posted up to kind of amp everybody up and be good little marketing for it. And I think this is the ones where I think like, oh, I think this might be photo reference, and he may have just inked over it. I mean, you know, it still takes some doing to try to get this going because you have to keep track of everything and then hatch the lighting back in there. So it is a lot of work. Like stuff like this looks like it's still part of the photo with adjusted to high contrast, but it works so well, you know. And I've found maybe when I was younger I'd be like, oh man, he didn't really draw that, but nowadays I think that's the way to go. You know, you're going for something so real, so realistic. Why not? You know, I don't see anything wrong with that because all the good stuff is out of his head. Really good stuff. I'm always amazed by his Travis's draftsmanship. Hey, this looks almost like his old school stuff. But stuff like this kind of detail, oh my goodness, knocks me out. That's crazy stuff, man. He does some cool stuff with the design of certain things. So this guy's clothes just totally points over. And I like I like it when he tries to do like these things that that aren't alive in a panel border, but he's still trying to tell it in sequence. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always looking good. So I appreciate that. Appreciate that a lot, actually. So I think like stuff like this, I think Stewart colored it pretty well, because I think in the black and whites, it's a little tough to see, right? Your focus goes into this train because of the whites. But I think the colors work out pretty well. I guess the focus is still on there because of that. There's not as much hatching. But definitely your eye does go still to her. Yeah, that's just a crazy page. Every piece of rock was drawn. And I really appreciated that was in the back of the book too. And this is issue 4 with Coipel, as I mentioned. I should really pick up the trade because it's already in trade format and all these issues are in there. All these fantastic artists working through it. And I've come to appreciate Mark Millar stuff more now that I'm older. When I was younger, I felt like it was just so outlandish and kind of like shock value, kind of like stories. And it is. But it's there to entertain, to provoke, right? Like he knows what he's doing. Mark Millar knows what he's doing. And you're either on board or you're not. And I've come to appreciate a few of his works, I think, especially after Starlight, I think. Was it Starlight? Or it was this space one with Goran Parlov, and I love that guy's art, but it's kind of like a Dark Knight Returns version for Flash Gordon. So if you haven't read it, that one's one of my favorite Millarverse stories. And I've come to appreciate like, oh, okay, he knows what he's doing enough that he can switch to whatever style, and he knows that a certain style gets more attention. So that's the way that he goes. And then he has fun. Like, yeah, it's extreme violence and extreme everything. And it's fun. It's comics. It's just comics to like the topmost gear that you could put it at. And that's what he taps into. That's what Millar taps into. And Ambassadors is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Anyway, that's it for Comix Rant today. And this is The Ambassadors issue number 3 by Mark Millar and Travis Charest. Really good stuff. Check out your local comic book store if you want to buy it. And that's it for this episode. See you guys next time.